Let's have a listen then to some salient voices on this. Downing Street says the Prime Minister has no plans to mark 5 years since Britain left the EU. The Tories, of course, accusing Labour of plotting to dismantle Brexit. This is Keir Starmer discussing an EU reset when he joined Harry Cole on Never Mind the Ballots. Have a listen to this.
Are you about to betray Brexit?
No, we've been really clear from the get-go that this isn't about re-entry to the EU. It's not about going back to the old rules of the single market, the customs union, freedom of movement, etc. So we've been very clear about that. But within that, yes, we do want to reset. I want to make sure that we get a better deal for the British people, for your readers, so that they feel better off, they've got a better public services, and I think we can do that with a reset.
They can do it now with a reset. What does a reset look like, Harrison? And has Brexit been a success, firstly?
I think Brexit was success in democratic terms. There hasn't really been an exercise as successful as Brexit. People who don't normally turn out to vote felt as if they could that time. And you compare it to, for example, the general election we've just had, where turnout was historically low compared to Brexit. I think the more people that go out to vote, the healthier democracy. And in that instance, that was a good thing.
Yeah.
Regarding Keir Starmer, well, people shouldn't be too surprised. He wasn't particularly a Brexit fanatic. He was campaigning for the kind of in-out scenario under Corbyn, which I always thought was odd because Corbyn was kind of more of a leaver, but he never really embraced that. So I think for democracy it was good. Starmer is not a surprise. I think it'd be unusual if you would see him celebrating it because he's very eager to kind of heal things with the EU. But I don't think that's just immune to particularly to Labour, though. Theresa May was also, I think, in a very similar situation where she was a Remainer, didn't particularly believe in it, and constantly hedged for the EU. Sure. And that, you could argue, is why we never really got any sort of agreement with the US when Trump was in last time.
We had that curious time, didn't we, when it was Prime Minister's Question time. You had Jeremy Corbyn versus Theresa May. So Theresa May, a Remainer, arguing pro-Brexit, and Jeremy Corbyn was probably a leaver, but arguing against Brexit. I mean, it was just a sort of a mad upside-down period.
Absolutely. Look, there are some proven successes. Don't get me wrong. Leaving does not mean we will win automatically. Leaving means we've got more levers to pull of our own. That they can either be good or bad. I think some proven successes was obviously the stance in Ukraine. Now, people think that we maybe gone too much or too less on that. But one thing that is conclusive is that we have stood on the world stage as the UK. And we've come across as quite a large player and a leader in that, especially with Sleepy Joe. Boris Johnson, with a lot of his faults, did come across like he was in control of that situation. The vaccine rollout, that, like I said, some people might have some negative thoughts on that. But realistically, the reason why we were able to get so many vaccines so quickly was our independence and our independent buying power. And obviously that submarine deal that we did with, I think it was New Zealand and America and Australia.
That's right. Yeah, there was a collaboration of a deal.
That couldn't have been done within the EU. So look, there are successes, but leaving the EU doesn't mean default success. It just means we have more control to either make more failures or more success. And I don't think tying ourselves to an EU project which isn't particularly doing that well at the moment, I think we should look elsewhere to the likes of the US, which are really thriving.
Yeah, indeed. And of course, it's all very well saying, it's 5 years since Brexit, but of course, 3 of those, and we're still feeling the pain. The world locked down during that period. So I think it's really hard to gauge, particularly at the moment, where we might be, given that we had this, ludicrous set of lockdowns that scuppered everything from domestic issues to, international agreements. Everything was kind of put on hold. A bit of a pause button was set. Apparently, according to recent polls, most people would vote to rejoin. It's about 56%, which did surprise me because I don't know what that's based on.
That doesn't surprise me either. I actually very much can relate to people who kind of want to rejoin. Look, I'm in a rejoin area anyway, Remain area, I should say. So I do understand the sentiment because people have been promised that things will be good and they haven't been as good as they've turned out. So the natural reaction to that is, well, let's go back. So, but like I said, leaving does not determine success. It's the leadership you have. For example, I always thought Nigel Farage should have been the leader post-Brexit. Instead, we had political opportunists like Theresa May who saw it as an opportunity to be Prime Minister rather than what was actually within the national interest of to put someone who knew how it worked and who knew what to do to take advantage of leaving. Like I said, one of the big things that they should have done, sit down with the top finance bosses and say, what can we do? How can we make the UK better as we are now free from all the regulatory tape? What can make us the best as the centre of financial services?
Spot on.
Do it.
Spot on. Let's move to this story. Around £10 billion in benefits was lost to fraud and errors last year. Now, that's 6.7% of the total bill. This is absolutely enormous. £1 in every 15. This is according to the Public Accounts Committee report. Let's have a listen to this clip. It's always interesting to replay this. This was Fraser Nelson's documentary that he did for Channel 4, interestingly, on Britain's benefits scandal. It features a man explaining here how he earns more money by not going to work.
So you're working part-time now and you're getting long-term sickness benefits. So what's the combination of those two compared to when you were working full-time with no benefits?
It's no different. So I'm probably working half the hours for the same money.
Right. So there's no financial incentive for you to get out of a situation at all?
None at all. None at all.
So why are you here? Why are you talking to me?
Because I wanted to highlight how bad things are.
Yeah, I mean, if I was him, I'd kept my mouth shut, frankly, on national television, because somebody might come looking into his books. But what he describes there is exactly the same bear trap that every Prime Minister and head of the Department of Work and Pensions has found themselves standing on, and that's this Gordian knot of trying to work out how it's better to go to work, how you balance the benefits with people who need it, and how you make sure that you don't sit at home and you're doing better by not working than you are by going to work. And that fella there is describing exactly that. It's no surprise we're losing £10 billion a year, Harrison.
Yeah, it's a benefits trap. It's interesting. Reform have spoken about this, where in an instance, if you were to abolish income tax for those earning up to £20,000, then you've incentivized people to get into work. But otherwise, like that he's just pointed out there is no point. And until there is that incentive to actually go out and work, and obviously the biggest incentive for most people to work is financial, then there isn't anything there. One thing that's worth pointing out is, do you know how many people are currently claiming benefits in this country?
Go on, give us the number.
It's over 20 million. So which is a lot. I mean, that's a lot.
Does that include your old age pension?
Good question. I didn't do my homework on that. Maybe, probably. I hope so. Fingers crossed.
Well, yeah, you'd hope so, wouldn't you? But maybe it doesn't. I mean, there's all manner of benefits and various bits and pieces. And look, you know, we live in a civilised world. We have a safety net for those who need it, whether they're sick, if there's a disability, some other challenge, if you're off work because of no fault of you, had an accident, whatever. You know, there's obviously issues when you've had children and things like that. We understand the need for a benefit system. We don't understand the need for one that gives money away that shouldn't be given away, and certainly one that can allow a £10 billion shortfall at the end of the year because of fraud and error. That's not a system. That's a crime scene, frankly.
I just checked while you were talking. So it's 22.6 million, and it includes pension credit, but not the state pension.
Not the state pension. So there we go.
So yeah, I mean that's huge. And I think what's more alarming about this is the benefit system is obviously very generous anyway, and yet people are still going out their way to scam it to the tune of 10 billion. Now, I personally think 10 billion is worthy of completely scrapping an entire department of failure. I mean, seriously, if you were a company and you oversaw such large failures of that amount, what is their function?
Well, you'd just be closed down. You wouldn't be working. You wouldn't be in business. You know, you'd be on your knees.
And this is the difference in stance from this country, which is still wrestling to get people in the office 2 days a week, right? Compared to what we're doing in America, where it's like, actually, we don't need you anymore. We will give you a severance pay and that's it. the attitude difference is completely stark, and I think it's such a shame because when our tax burden continues to increase, and it will continue to increase due to fiscal drag, people are going to think, what's the point? And we've already seen that. We've seen a 150% increase in millionaires leave this country in last year alone. And the problem is, people don't seem to realise that the top 1%, well, I'm not sure what it will be anymore because of how many have left, but the top 1% pay around about, on average, a third of all income tax receipts.
Yeah,
now, you've got to think, so for every millionaire leaving, how many minimum wage workers do we need to plug that gap? Probably quite a few. And I just think the attitude towards spending money is disgraceful. It's almost like people don't realise how much hard work goes into earning money.
Absolutely.
And it's just gone like it's nothing.
All right, listen, on that point, Harrison, stay with us. Harrison Allman-Varty.